Chapter 1491. How did Gu Jingyan end up in the hospital? Fu Chengxi shouted, I don't care. I want to see Lu Baikan. Let me see Lu Baikan. That's enough. Gu Jingyan's voice drifted from inside. She looked at Fu Chengxi and walked over. Fu Chengxi slowly froze upon hearing that growl. Fu Chengxi held her breath and started to tear up as she saw that 2 more people had followed Gu Jingyan, looking at her with contempt. Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan frowned at her. This is my company. What is the meaning of this commotion that you created here? Fu Chengxi laughed. What is the meaning? And what is the meaning of you intending to drive me out onto the streets? Bystanders looked over curiously. Was this a big drama between the main chick and side chick? It was intriguing to watch. Gu Jingyan realized that people were watching, and she lowered her eyebrows. Alright, all of you can leave first. Everyone looked. It was a pity that they could not watch how Gu Jingyan would deal with Fu Chengxi. A pity, indeed. However, Gu Jingyan had already given orders. They could only watch Gu Jingyan and Fu Chengxi stand there. They glanced back before they scrammed. It was just Gu Jingyan and Fu Chengxi left. Fu Chengxi looked at Gu Jingyan with hatred. Gu Jingyan smiled. What did you say, Fu Chengxi? I chased you out onto the streets. Let me ask you, when you weren't living in the villa, what were you living in? Did you not have a place to stay during then? What I'm saying now is that the house is under my name. You don't have the right to care. What are you doing this for? You just want to take your revenge on me since you know that the house has nothing to do with you. Why do you have to be like this? Nothing to do with me. When Lu Baikan bought that house for you, we were still husband and wife. When we were still together, whatever money he used to buy you a house was also mine. Understand? You're spouting nonsense. Fu Chengxi growled, Lu Baikan has all the money. Haha, so what? Does that mean he can spend on you without a thought? He has all the money but it has nothing to do with you. That money belongs to us. Both of us had worked day and night tirelessly to accumulate that amount. It doesn't matter how much money we have. Every single cent represents our blood and sweat, do you understand? What have you done exactly? You're just full of tears, and you think you can get a villa just like that. What do you think your tears are? Pearls. These words of mockery made Fu Chengxi go red in the face. Fu Chengxi's eyes moved. But don't think you can use such words to lecture me. It's you who have been wrong from the start. Gu Jingyan, it was you who snatched my boyfriend. This villa shall be compensation to me. You shouldn't take it back. Gu Jingyan smiled wider right away. Snatched your boyfriend? So, you want this villa as compensation? A boyfriend in your eyes is only worth that much. No, or should I say that a boyfriend to you is to be used like that? He should be used to exchange for money. Fu Chengxi's face changed. She flinched and her hands fidgeted in discomfort. No, that's not what I mean. You're twisting my words. You're eloquent and you were a debater in the past. I definitely can't out-talk you. But what you're doing now is wrong. You have no right to take my house away. I want to see Lu Baikan. I know you must have used some dirty tricks to trick him into agreeing that you'll take my house. If not, he wouldn't do this to me. Gu Jingyan said, that's beyond my control. It's a fact that he's not here. If you want to ask him. You won't believe what I say anyway. You can go now. Seeing how Gu Jingyan wanted to go in after she said her piece, Fu Chengxi panicked. If she were to just leave like that, where was she going to find Lu Baikan? She had been searching for him for a long time. Gu Jingyan, don't you leave. Gu Jingyan turned her head around arrogantly. Chengxi, I advise you to open your eyes. He doesn't love you as much as you think. Perhaps he doesn't even love you anymore. His feelings for you were perhaps from the past. He has affections for you but he doesn't love you the way you think he does. Understand? This sentence made Fu Chengxi panic completely. He did not love her anymore. He had no feelings for her anymore. Impossible, impossible. Gu Jingyan was lying to her. Gu Jingyan was saying this on purpose. Fu Chengxi charged towards Gu Jingyan right away. Gu Jingyan, it's all because of you. You've ruined everything. We shall perish together. As she saw Fu Chengxi charging over, Gu Jingyan retreated. Fu Chengxi immediately fell onto the table. She hit herself hard and was in pain, but she did not get a hold of Gu Jingyan. She felt even more desolate. She had forgotten how powerful Gu Jingyan was. In high school, she could take on a few guys in a fight. She was in great pain. Why did Gu Jingyan have to be that capable? She had no chance of even taking revenge. At that moment, she was in tears and saw a scissors on the office table. She grabbed the scissors right away, turned around and stabbed Gu Jingyan. Lu Baikan was at home drinking liquor and watching a movie. He had made up his mind to not pick up phone calls and to not go to work. He felt perplexed and upset, unable to concentrate. He did not know what was going on with him. Why was he in such a mood even though he was such a grown-up? However, it was uncontrollable. Just then, the phone rang incessantly. He picked up the phone and said irritatedly, "Aren't you annoying? It's so irritating that you keep calling. I'm busy. Lu Baiken, you're still home. Gu Jingyan is in the hospital." What? Lu Baiken threw down whatever he was holding in his hands. At the hospital. People scurried back and forth. Blood could be seen in the trauma department. Lu Baiken reeked of alcohol. Seeing all the fresh blood on the ground made him feel like darkness was in front of him. He held onto the walls to walk in. The moment he saw a nurse, he straightened up. "Where's Gu Jingyan?" The nurse jumped at seeing this drunk man. "You, what are you saying? What's with you? This is a hospital, what are you here for? Where is Gu Jingyan? Why is there blood everywhere? Did she lost that much blood?" "No, it's not," the nurse said in a tremble. "There was a car accident today, and there were many casualties." "What are you doing exactly? Don't hinder our work, all right." Lu Baiken pushed the nurse aside and continued to head in. Once inside, he saw the Gu family's bodyguards outside a room. It was very obvious. Gu Jingyan must be inside. "Where's Gu Jingyan?" He walked over right away and pulled onto the bodyguard to ask. "Mr. Lu." The bodyguard's facial expression did not look good. "You." Lu Baiken was startled and could not control his oppressed heart. He immediately kicked the door open. "Mr. Lu, don't. Inside is." Gu Jingyan was seated inside. Chapter 1492. "It's me who let you down, come at me." By her side, a doctor was bandaging her finger. Facing the man who had just kicked through the door, the doctor got a shock. "You." The doctor stood up hastily, and when he saw that it was Lu Baiken, he let out a sigh of relief and stopped. They all knew who Lu Baiken was. He was Gu Jingyan's husband. This couple was very popular on the internet. "Mr. Lu, you're here just in time. Don't worry, your wife's all right, it's just her hand that got injured." Lu Baiken looked absent-mindedly and noticed that Gu Jingyan looked a little pale, but otherwise, she was fine. He walked over and hugged Gu Jingyan with all his might. Gu Jingyan pushed him away. "What are you doing, Lu Baiken? Have you gone mad?" Lu Baiken pulled her hands apart. "I'm here to see what happened to you. How did you land up in the hospital?" Gu Jingyan paused as she saw how anxiety reeked of him. "You thought I got injured and ended up in the hospital?" Looking at Gu Jingyan's expression, Lu Baiken asked, "What happened to you?" That expression clearly showed that something was amiss. He understood Gu Jingyan. He knew that something was amiss when she carried a frown on her face. Gu Jingyan thought, so he came to the hospital because he felt that she was injured, but it was not her who got injured. If he knew the truth, she was only afraid he would start getting angry with her and hate her through the core. She pushed his hands away. "Lu Baiken, I'm not injured. When have you seen me get injured? Isn't this an injury?" Lu Baiken grabbed her hand. She did not see herself as a woman. If it were other women, they would immediately let the whole world know about a small injury. Gu Jingyan got serious and stood up. "Looks like they haven't told you everything. The one who's injured is someone else." "What?" Gu Jingyan brought Lu Baiken to the ward next door. Inside was fresh blood all over the floor. The injured Fu Chengxi was lying on the bed. Her face was pale, and she was crying so hard that she was breathless. Upon seeing Lu Baiken, she immediately struggled to get up. Baiken, I almost thought that I wouldn't be able to see you. You shouldn't move around, patient. I'm still bandaging you up." Her arm had gotten injured, and it bled a lot, soaking her white sleeve in red. Gu Jingyan stood at the back quietly as she watched Fu Chengxi pounce on Lu Baiken. Lu Baiken frowned at her and then looked at Gu Jingyan behind. He immediately pushed Fu Chengxi away and got the doctor to take her. "Hold on to her, doctor." The doctor quickly held her. Fu Chengxi was stunned. She then looked hatefully at Gu Jingyan. "It was her, she wanted to kill me." Lu Baiken's eyes paused, and he turned around to look at Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan's face did not change. She stood there calmly as she looked at Fu Chengxi. Fu Chengxi said, "See, it's her. How can she do this to me?" Lu Baiken looked at Gu Jingyan. "What exactly happened?" Gu Jingyan looked at him. "Why don't you go and ask her?" Fu Chengxi immediately shouted, "I went to the company to look for you, but she said you weren't around. She got everyone else to leave, and then she hurt me afterwards. If not because I avoided it quickly, I might be dead now." Gu Jingyan laughed. "Take a good look at yourself. You avoided it quickly." Fu Chengxi, can you think about practicality when you lie? If I wanted to harm you, would you be able to avoid it? Do you think I've learned everything for nothing at the Gu family? Fu Chengxi froze up. She could only put her delicate and sorrowful eyes to play as she looked in the direction of Lu Baiken. Unfortunately, even in her sorrow state, it was not touching. It only seemed like she was a scary-looking mad person. With fresh blood all over her body, messy hair and bloodstains all over her face. It was almost impossible to see how she looked. Lu Baiken looked at Gu Jingyan, and then at Fu Chengxi. Gu Jingyan seemed so indifferent. Lu Baiken took in a deep breath. He turned around to face Fu Chengxi. Fu Chengxi's eyes brightened up. Baiken, it hurts. Lu Baiken only glared at her and said, that's enough. Chengxi, Jingyan is right. Don't you know what Jingyan is capable of? If she wanted to hurt you, it wouldn't be only your arm that would be hurt, and you wouldn't even be sent to the hospital. Fu Chengxi's face fell completely. What do you mean? She looked at Lu Baiken in disbelief. Lu Baiken took in a deep breath. Chengxi, what I mean is, don't go and look for Jingyan anymore. You going to the company to make a fuss is not right in the first place. This is between you and me, don't push it onto Jingyan. She should not be paying the price for us. She should not be wasting her time to handle the troubles between us. She's already very busy with so many things on hand. Don't disturb her anymore, alright? Fu Chengxi understood this time. However, her heart was half dead. Looking at Lu Baiken in a daze, she shook her head, wanting to smile and cry at the same time. In the end, she only bit her lip and charged towards Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan, I want to perish with you. Gu Jingyan did not expect that Fu Chengxi would go crazy in the hospital. Gu Jingyan quickly wanted to block Fu Chengxi, but before she could stretch her hand out, she already felt that Lu Baiken had immediately hugged her and stepped back. Fu Chengxi's hand was indeed not empty. She had taken a glass medicine bottle from the side and came to attack afterwards. Lu Baiken blocked it with his hand. The glass bottle immediately burst open in his hand. Lu Baiken flinched and shook off the broken pieces. Fu Chengxi got a massive shock from it that she froze. She did not want to attack Lu Baiken. But with a change of mind, she saw that Gu Jingyan held onto Lu Baiken. Don't move, there are some glass fragments inside. Gu Jingyan held his hand and lowered her head to have a look. She quickly took the doctor's tweezers and carefully helped to take them out. Lu Baiken frowned and gritted his teeth in pain. But he looked up at Fu Chengxi. Fu Chengxi trembled. She ultimately did not know what to say. I really didn't want to, but, you actually, Fu Chengxi's tears fell as she looked at Lu Baiken. You actually took the hit for her. Why did you have to protect her? Gu Jingyan said, that's enough from you. What else do you want? I've already let it slide once and didn't call the police or got someone to throw you out. But don't you get overboard. Fu Chengxi smiled coldly and looked at Gu Jingyan. Call the police if you want. Do you think I'm scared of you? Anyway, relying on your status as the fourth young mistress of the Gu family and relying on your wealth, you can let me die without a burial ground and take away everything that's mine. This is not your first time doing so. That's enough, Fu Chengxi. Lu Baiken pushed Fu Chengxi away. He really had enough. He had been forgiving towards her countless times, telling himself that he did her wrong. But she was getting too much. Fu Chengxi, if you must, attack me. That's right, and I did you wrong that year. I like Gu Jingyan, and I made the first move on her. It has nothing to do with her. But I've already told you very clearly. After it happened, I also informed you. You chose to leave, and I respected your wishes. Now, you're clinging on to me, and you treat Jingyan as such. The one who betrayed you was me, not her. What exactly do you want? Chapter 1493. We're two alike, so we're on this long winding road. What? You like Gu Jingyan? Fu Chengxi wished she could say she had heard wrong. But Lu Baiken was already stunned at that moment. Yes, he did say those words. But it was what he felt in his heart. Lu Baiken looked at Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan looked at Lu Baiken in a daze as well. She thought that she would never hear him say the word, like, in her lifetime. She thought that they only had fights between them and nothing else. That year, she treated him as a friend and as a brother. The truth was, deep in her heart, she had ever wondered if he liked her at all. Whenever he acted like he cared, when he protected her from a disaster, and when he did not care about himself to help her. But she never really dared to think much about it. Because how could she dare to? She always told herself that maybe he was this sort of person. Enthusiastic and silly, he would go all out to help his friends, but she was never his cup of tea. He treated her well because they were friends. Sometimes, we all worry if the word, came out of the mouth. Would that mean we couldn't even be friends? So, they were friends for life. How many stories are like this? Because of the worrying and so, nobody dares to confess their feelings or dares to take that step forward. They were like this, and now, they finally caught up to this moment. Although Gu Jingyan's heart felt relieved, she clearly understood that they had already ended up at this point. Now to think about all these, was it already too late? She had never said, "I like you." He was already her ex-husband. All these years, he had already broken her heart through and through. Lu Baikan looked at Gu Jingyan and suddenly realized something. He was stupid and foolish. So many years, and he had never given a serious thought about the sort of person he liked. Lu Baikan looked at Gu Jingyan. "Jingyan, I'm sorry, I've been a jerk, I've been disappointing you all these years." Gu Jingyan wanted to smile, but a forced smile was horrible to look at. Lu Baikan said, "I have never given any thought about the sort of person I'll like. You're great and strong, but I've always thought that you were too strong, that I wanted to be in front of you. But then, when it comes to liking you, I couldn't even dare. I was worried that if I liked you, then I've lost. But I don't wish to see you be with someone else, nor see you get close to any other guy. I don't wish for anything to happen to you, but I wish for you to stay by my side and be well. I've hurt you so much, and yet I don't like it when others hurt you for even a little bit. I do like you, all right." As Gu Jingyan heard his words, her eyes started to well up with tears. Yes, this was liking someone, was it not? It was so similar to her thoughts. However, it was because they were too alike that even the heart made a similar decision. All these years and neither said anything. Neither wanted to be the weak one. Fu Chengxi looked at both of them. They were like one. Their story was a curved line. And her. What was she, Fu Chengxi, counted as? Fu Chengxi stepped back until she touched the wall. There was no room left for retreat. "You guys, what are you guys doing? Lu Baikan, what is this? You clearly like me. You liked me so much back then. All these years. You've liked me that much. Otherwise, why would you help me that much? But now you're saying you don't like me. It's impossible." Lu Baikan turned around and looked at Fu Chengxi. "Chengxi, I'm sorry. That year, I didn't even know what the meaning of like was. I thought we were different, and it was refreshing to be with you. I thought that I liked you. I thought opposites in a relationship was the best, since similar people couldn't possibly like each other because they can see everything in the other party. Everything would be familiar to them. I thought people as such wouldn't fall in love, so I thought I liked you. But it's clear to me now that I only want to let my feelings follow my mind for development. I didn't want to admit my feelings that I've lost control and liked someone else. So, I forced myself to believe that I liked you." Fu Chengxi laughed right away. Her laughter got louder and louder. In the end, she laughed until her throat hurt and lungs trembled. "So, I'm just your tool, is that it?" Lu Baikan could only say, "I'm sorry." In love, the one who was not being loved was the third party, was it? In the past, she had always thought it was like this. Hence, she never felt that she was the third party. Even if Gu Jingyan was with Lu Baikan, and that they already had a child, or even if they had been married for many years and their relationship was stable, she never felt that she was getting in between them or that she was in the wrong. She felt that she was the one being loved. For the sake of love, she was the female lead in a sad drama. But now, she finally understood. She was the third party. She was never the female lead. The female lead was Gu Jingyan. It had always been her. Good family, beautiful, smart, great in academics, and one who knew everything. She had been the story's main character all along. Now, even the love story belonged to her. How could Fu Chengxi not laugh? "Lu Baikan, just you wait. Just you wait, both of you." Fu Chengxi seized the door and left. She ran out like a mad person. Upon seeing the situation, Gu Jingyan quickly said, "What is she going to do?" Lu Baikan stopped Gu Jingyan. "Let her go. Jingyan, don't go over. I'll get someone to take a look. If you go over, she might hurt you." Gu Jingyan stopped and thought that it was better to have someone take a look as well. Lu Baikan's wound had not been cleaned, and the mess in the company had not been cleared up. But, at that moment, Lu Baikan was still staring at her. He had been staring at her. He had said so much just now. The mushy stuff, the honest stuff, what should be said and what should not be said were all said. But why did she not have the slightest reaction? Gu Jingyan lowered her head and looked at his wound. "How did this happen? Don't move, I'll put some medication on you first." She put some disinfectant onto his wound. "Ouch, damn, Gu Jingyan, are you trying to murder your own husband?" Lu Baikan exclaimed in shock. Gu Jingyan scoffed. "This is for staring at me. I'm telling you to wake up. Ha, own husband, you're now the ex-husband. He really hated the term ex-husband. He said, ex-husband is also a husband. Ha, you can't deny that. Gu Jingze said, manage this dying arm of yours first. As she said that, she took a ball of cotton wool and stuck it on. Ouch, Lu Baikan exclaimed again. Gu Jingyan's heart was too ruthless. Chapter 1494. Perhaps I was too careful in the paw. Gu Jingyan looked at the state he was in and wanted to laugh. But she held back. The doctor rushed in just at this moment. Gu Jingyan said right away, all right, since the doctor is here, I'll leave him to do it. Lu Baikan held on to Gu Jingyan and looked at her with sparkling eyes. No, you do it. Gu Jingyan frowned and looked up. What, there's a doctor here, and I'm not a professional. Lu Baikan shot a cold glance at the doctor. The doctor quickly retreated, not daring to move forward. Lu Baikan looked at her with contempt. What, this wound happened because of you. Can't I get you to help me out? Gu Jingyan really? Sure, she owed him. Gu Jingyan had no other choice but to help him with his wound. Bit by bit, she put on the medication for him in all seriousness. Gu Jingyan did not seem to notice that the man beside her was looking at her closely. Her ears were small and so was her face. Not knowing why, in the past, he had always felt that she was tall and big. Now looking at her, he realized that she was so small, and especially so when she was in front of him. She seemed so slim and fragile, but she still had a strong spirit. She was a woman who made him confused. His hand could not help but to slowly touch her body. His fingers were on the side of her body, slowly rubbing and feeling the curves. Gu Jingyan felt it immediately. She looked up. Lu Baikan, touch me again, and I'll sue you for harassment. Lu Baikan was speechless and took his hands off. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I harass you? Seriously, you came so close, it's just a brush at times. Gu Jingyan rolled her eyes. Lu Baikan thought hatefully, his wife, and yet he could not touch her. He had to think of something to get her back. Getting him to accept his divorce was already more difficult than death. How could he ever separate from her? Meanwhile, Mu Firen sat in her own hotel room, looking through the script and finding the feelings. Just then, the doorbell rang. Mu Firen went to open the door and saw Black Eagle walking in and holding on to some supper. She said, what are you doing? Black Eagle said, I bought them for you. Come and eat. Mu Firen looked at him helplessly. This man was really, sometimes more clingy than anyone else. After he had entered, the two of them sat at the table to eat. The room was actually the best room in the hotel. It was just that this was a hotel located near the filming studio, so it was a little old. Black Eagle always looked like he felt uncomfortable. Black Eagle said, you stay at this kind of place whenever you're filming? If not, Mu Firen said, oh, actually, it doesn't mean anything even if it's a better hotel. It won't be as comfortable as at home. No place is like home. So, hotels to us actors are just as they are. Black Eagle took in a deep breath. He thought that she was having it tough and his heart ached. He looked at Mu Firen. She lowered her head to eat and looked at the script at the same time. He thought about those years she was by that man's side. She was as hardworking as well. After nurturing that man's entire company, she seemed to be oppressed. And she was still treated like that by that man's family. Black Eagle got closer to Mu Firen and looked at this strong woman. Soon, Mu Firen felt it. She looked up and looked at Black Eagle with a warning. Hey, isn't it time for you to go? Black Eagle cleared his throat and looked at her. No, it's just that, he smiled. I think you look good. So I want to look at you more. This man. He had said it so directly it made her whole body feel warm. She felt something in her heart. She wanted to smile but she was not willing to smile. So she only glared at him. Rubbish. However, her voice had a hint of shyness and it made him happy. Black Eagle looked at her. Why? Am I wrong? If you weren't good looking, why would so many people like you? You have so many fans. That means everyone likes you, right? Was he licking her boots? Mu Firen got even more shy. Getting complimented by Black Eagle made her feel even happier. She always felt that this accomplishment was probably nothing to someone like Black Eagle. Mu Firen said, all right, don't tease and make me happy. I have to get up early to film tomorrow. I need to rest early. Black Eagle looked at the time. It was already quite late. He stood up and said, then I'll leave first. Just that, he looked at her for one last time. And immediately kissed her passionately. Mu Firen felt her cheeks get wet. She wanted to say something, but the next thing she knew, Black Eagle had already ran out. Seriously. Her face turned red in an instant. Black Eagle closed her door. He could feel her being like a little woman, and he could also feel her face turning red. He instantly seemed to understand Union's words. Though they were together, it was not enough. He had always been worried about her shadow and did not dare get close. So it caused a distance between them. Once he understood this, it was as if he had opened a new door. He smiled and headed forward. Just then, it so happened that a group of people had gotten back drunk. They saw Black Eagle along the corridor and they all got a shock. Wow, Black Eagle. It's so late and you're still here. Did you just go to Sister Firen's room? Hey, aren't you both staying together? Sister Firen is so dedicated to her work, she wouldn't let someone stay the night. Everyone laughed in low voices as they speculated, but they definitely did not dare let Black Eagle hear what they were saying. Jo Tong was amongst them and her eyes brightened as soon as she saw Black Eagle. But she lightly bit her lips when she heard everyone's conversation. Mu Firen's man. She wondered why Mu Firen was so lucky. She had already given birth to someone else's kid, and she could still get Black Eagle. But many wealthy people had low emotional quotient. They only liked big stars. Perhaps it was just because she was the screen queen. So, Black Eagle did not bother about all these and only wanted to have his fun with this star. After all, it was rumored that Black Eagle was the king of the underworld. The underworld is all about fighting and killing, which does not sound decent when you hear about it. But he has such a big affluence that he eats up both black and white. It scares everyone once they land their ears on that. Jo Tong looked at him and thought that he could easily smite anyone although he was from the underworld. He was not like what most would have in their minds, a whole body of tattoos. On the contrary, he had the look of a classic sword-wielding handsome hero. Jo Tong blinked her eyes and watched Black Eagle walk past. She set her mind to an idea. He was in the production team, anyway. It was a favorable position. Jo Tong smiled silently to herself. Soon, it was the next day. When Mu Firen came down, she bumped into Jo Tong. She scoffed and brushed past Mu Firen. Chapter 1495 Look at who we are before you provoke us. From her side, the assistant snarled, Hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you apologizing even after bumping into someone? The audacity she had to bump into Sister Firen. Mu Firen looked up. She did not remember offending Jo Tong. But having been in the circle for some time, she could understand that some people would still stab you in the back even if you did not offend them. Sometimes, your existence is a threat to them. Jo Tong quickly turned around. Oh, Sister Firen, I'm really sorry. It was an accident. Mu Firen gave her a faint smile. Really, it's all right. If it's an accident, it's an accident. I always meet careless people. I'm used to it. Mu Firen patted the spot where she was bumped into and walked over. Jo Tong looked like she had swallowed a fly. Ha, acting like a big shot. I'll see how long you can stay popular for. Mu Firen had scenes for the entire day. Black Eagle watched from the back. Seated on a chair, he stared calmly at Mu Firen. Everyone felt very uncomfortable with Black Eagle staring. But a few of the girls' hearts melted for him. Look, he's been sitting there throughout just waiting for Mu Firen. Sister Firen is so lucky to have met such a man who has no complaints. It's so loving, coming here just to accompany her. Other than the rest, Mu Firen herself felt very uncomfortable with the constant staring. She wondered if it was because he was Black Eagle that the director did not care if he was from the production team and allowed him to sit there, disrupting everyone's time and affecting the filming. Mu Firen looked back at Black Eagle and walked over. Don't you have other things to do? Not today. He drank a sip of water. Then you might as well return to the hotel. Instead, Black Eagle grabbed her hand. I want to stay here and wait for you. Can't I? Mu Firen quickly drew her hand back, but everyone had already seen it. She glared at Black Eagle in embarrassment. Black Eagle smiled and said softly, All right, you film what you have to. Even if I don't bother you, there are so many others watching the filming. An extra person wouldn't make a difference. How is it not a difference? Did he not see that so many people had their eyes fixed on them? Mu Firen had no other way and could not get him to leave. She could only say, Why don't you go and make me some ginger tea with brown sugar? My stomach's feeling queasy. Is that so? Black Eagle started to frown. I've said it. There's a problem with staying here. It has nothing to do with that. Perhaps I can't eat so much at night. Upon hearing that, he felt that he was partly responsible as he brought her supper at night. He quickly said, All right, I'll prepare some for you. Seeing Black Eagle finally leaving, for now, Mu Firen quickly got the team to continue filming. Without him around, the efficiency got much better. However, Just then, Zhou Tong saw Black Eagle leaving and glancing at this side. She quickly caught up with him. Black Eagle did not know how to prepare tea. When he got outside, with a hand in his pocket and the other hand holding onto the phone, he called someone to get it prepared. When he turned around, he saw Zhou Tong smiling gleefully as she walked over. "Why, Mr. Mo, is there anything wrong with Sister Firen?" Zhou Tong looked at Black Eagle. The men she usually met were from families of small statuses. None were famous. It looked like Mu Firen's popularity was not by chance. There were so many people helping her, and there was a mogul behind her. They were all affluent people. If she was with Black Eagle, would it mean that she would be closer to becoming the screen queen? Black Eagle did not know her and naturally would not talk much. He immediately raised his eyebrows as though he did not know her and walked past. Ah, but if Zhou Tong could climb up the ladder that quickly, it meant that she was of some substance too. He did not appreciate her greeting, and was it all fine if he just brushed past her? No, Zhou Tong's body tilted, and she fell. Ouch. That sounded like an attractive voice that got choked. If others heard it, they would feel goosebumps all over. Black Eagle narrowed his eyes and turned his head back. With his vault black eyes, he glared at this woman who had thrown herself onto him. He smiled and went over. "Get up on your own. Or do you want me to help you up?" You help me up. I can't get up. I can't help you up. I'm a person who doesn't like to serve others. I only like to be served. Zhou Tong immediately stood up when she heard that. Is that so? Then what I know best is to serve. This was a sign. It was an obvious test. Black Eagle scoffed and looked at her. Are you sure? I do need someone who knows how to serve. Zhou Tong's eyes brightened. You mean Sister Firen can't serve you well enough? Black Eagle raised his eyebrow and declined to comment. Zhou Tong immediately seemed to notice that. That's really maybe it makes sense. Sister Firen is a little older and can't learn new tricks. There are many tricks now. She blinked her eyes as she spoke, looking very seductive. Black Eagle smiled even more. If this is the case, then wait for my news tonight. Zhou Tong's heart glimmered. She said, really, sure, I'll wait for you. Black Eagle smiled at her and walked past. Zhou Tong looked and felt her heart become full. As they say, no man cannot be hooked, but only women who did not work hard. She thought about herself becoming Black Eagle's woman immediately. Not knowing if she would become the next generation's screen queen soon, she started to get excited. Nightfall. Zhou Tong got the news very quickly. It was to be at the charming bar just next door. He was waiting for her. Zhou Tong dolled up and headed out. Just as she reached the entrance, she saw Mu Firen exiting. Zhou Tong wondered why Mu Firen was there when Black Eagle had set up a date with her. Yo, are you heading out, Sister Firen? Mu Firen saw Zhou Tong and soon felt she was encompassed in perfume. She was a little surprised. Zhou Tong said, I'm heading out, too. Really, have fun, I'm going off first. Zhou Tong scoffed. Sure, see you later, Sister Firen. Your time is going to be up. The next part will be mine. Zhou Tong's words had arrogance and ridicule. Mu Firen looked at her and did not get it. Zhou Tong concluded that since she was heading out alone, it looked like it was not a date with Black Eagle. Otherwise, Black Eagle would have already been with her. Zhou Tong headed out very quickly and arrived at Charming Bar. After looking for one round, she still did not find Black Eagle. However, at this moment, someone suddenly pulled her. Zhou Tong, right. Zhou Tong recognized him right away. This was Black Eagle's man. It's me. Black Eagle, is he inside? Haha, come in. Zhou Tong was pulled in a moment. When she went in, it did not feel right. Instead, she heard that man immediately say, boss treats us well. I heard he has especially found someone with many tricks, good skills, and knows how to serve well, to serve us. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. Come start. What? Zhou Tong was utterly dazed. You guys, how could you? How could we? Haha, did you think we are kind masters? If you want to offend our boss, you should first check and see what kind of people we are. His eyes darkened, and the man pushed Zhou Tong onto the sofa right away. No matter how Zhou Tong screamed in here, it was of no use. Chapter 1496. The country's most famous little kids. Who were they? They were hooligans. They had been through all sorts of dangerous events. They had done all sorts of crimes. This Zhou Tong thought that their chief was an ordinary rich person. She even dared to provoke their chief. She must be tired of living. They messed with Zhou Tong until she almost collapsed. She was still a celebrity, after all. Usually, she would only serve those big bosses, but today, these people treated her like a lowly prostitute. However, even if so, she did not dare to announce this. Because as they messed with her, they also took numerous videos. If this sort of thing got out, she would lose her reputation even if she was the victim. When people thought of her, they would immediately think of these images and not her lovely appearance. Meanwhile, Black Eagle had taken Mu Firen out for a meal, and they were eating at that moment. When they returned, they saw Zhou Tong holding onto her waist and walking step by step with difficulty. Looking at her state, it looked like she had gotten hurt. Zhou Tong was indeed in pain and discomfort. She felt like her bones were broken. Cursing in her heart, she looked up and saw Mu Firen and Black Eagle walking over together, shoulder by shoulder. Black Eagle stood at a side with eyes that laughed. The face that looked fierce and scary appeared to be peaceful when beside Mu Firen. Previously, Zhou Tong had thought that he was not a big deal. But after today, she did not seem to have such thoughts. She looked at the two of them, with eyes staring at Mu Firen. Jealousy had filled her heart, and yet she did not dare to show it. Soon, she quickly opened the door to her room as though she was running for her life. Mu Firen said in curiosity, "What is going on?" Black Eagle looked and smiled. "Let's go and get some rest." The next day, Zhou Tong looked at her with the utmost respect. She would bow when they met, and she did not dare to be sarcastic. If it were not necessary, she would not even face her. She would quickly hide away if she saw her from afar. Mu Firen found it strange. But thinking about it, she wondered if Black Eagle gave her some sort of warning. The incident that happened that day did not even come to mind. However, this news had crept its way into the circle and traveled wide. Not just others, even Lin Che heard the news. And it was because it was her company's production. And although her company was filming many TV dramas, she still paid attention to each and every one. So Lin Che came over to investigate. The moment Lin Che arrived, everyone became very well behaved. A few new actors also followed and paraded in front of her, hoping to get noticed. Lin Che had seen Zhou Tong back then. After discussing with the director and receiving recommendations from another agency, Lin Che chose her. Even more so, she suited the role. But she never would have thought that she would be such a person. Lin Che smiled and went to look for Mu Firen immediately. Looking at Mu Firen, she immediately said, "Oh my, that Zhou Tong." Mu Firen said, "What about Zhou Tong?" Looking at Mu Firen's state, Lin Che thought she must not have heard the news. However, that was Black Eagle's doing. Perhaps Black Eagle had the intention of not telling her. In that case, Lin Che would not speak out of turn. "Nothing, I just think she's much more well-behaved now. She was too wild at the start. I was worried she would cause trouble in the production team. Oh, everything's still fine. She's more well-behaved recently." The incident spread like wildfire. How could she not behave? Though it spread secretly just within the circle, she still had that incident, which was a considerable embarrassment. Mu Firen wanted Lin Che to stay for a meal, but Lin Che said, "I can't. I've to go to kindergarten. It's going to be the graduation ceremony soon, and I have to take part in it." Mu Firen said, "Oh yes, it's also unions but I'm too busy to go. I have asked Mo Jinyan to go over." "Alright, I'll go over and help you to keep an eye on him." Lin Che and Gu Jingze seemed to be living in a rush these days, no matter where they were. Lin Che was already a public figure and was slowly becoming one of the top filmmakers in the film industry. Then, when her relationship with Gu Jingze was publicized, spectators constantly surrounded their marriage. Both did not head out as much as they could stay in. There would be too many people spectating the moment they went out. Any small matter at home would be publicized to the public. Whatever they ate, drank, or did was exposed to the public. At first, Lin Che was not really used to it. After that, it was nothing to her. Anyway, people could watch if they liked to. They would just treat these people as non-existent. As for their everyday lives, they were as good as gone. Now, their children had already become everybody's favorites for the camera. Just by participating in a variety program, Xiuan had already gained fame. Then, Nianian caught up. His little face got ladies excited, and his cute ways of controlling his sister gained him even more popularity. Just 2 kids from kindergarten and they had already become the most popular kids around. There was nobody who did not know them in the entire country. Gu Xinian was calm. Just like that, he acted like nothing had happened and lived as he would. Gu Xiuan was more fiery. Sometimes, she would immediately ask the reporters, "What are you doing? Sister, why are you filming me? Brother, what's this you have here? Brother, who are you taking pictures of me for?" Watching how Gu Xiuan was so innocent that day, the paparazzi also started to feel embarrassed. Ji Yuxiuan was so young at her age and already had a contract for a film. Just that Lin Che did not allow her to film anything, letting her make a few cameos in her company's TV drama production sometimes was already not bad. But Yu Minmin had been saying that Ji Yuxiuan had the talent. Be it singing, performing, dancing, or just talking. It looked like she already had the basics, and it would flourish in the future. Lin Che did not want to hinder her children's path. If the child wanted to express herself and wanted to head down the acting course, it was up to her. But her starting point was much higher than herself. At such a young age, she was already a child star and a household name. However, even if Ji Yuxian did not act or sing and just stood at a spot, he was already a child star in a way. Whenever they walked on the streets, numerous fans would start going mad and calling him their husband. Lin Che did not know how to put it nicely to her son. At the kindergarten's graduation ceremony, a horde of reporters was also around. The good thing was the school had already gotten used to it and pretended they did not exist. Some of the teachers and students thought that it was quite interesting. Of course, some parents had feedback that they were worried these people would affect their children's studies and character building. But their kids did not have to quit school just because of this. If they were asked to quit, the parents would not be happy. After all, other than this problem, there was nothing to be said about the teachers. So, some parents would go onto the internet to condemn the unscrupulous paparazzi. Chapter 1497 Lu Baiken, you were making use of the child. The kindergarten's graduation ceremony was very grand. Lin Che watched her child stand up there to give a speech, looking absent-minded. This was also the teacher's arrangement. They wanted to get someone with the most significant influence for the speech so that people would watch it when they uploaded it online. Needless to say, everyone knew that the one with the greatest influence at current was Ji Yuxian. Sure enough, Black Eagle arrived soon after. Did you go to Firenze just now? Black Eagle nudged Lin Che's shoulder. Lin Che replied, yes. Black Eagle scratched his nose. You didn't say anything to her, right? Lin Che smiled and looked at Black Eagle. Oh, are you talking about that Zhou Tong problem? Well, Black Eagle's eyes darkened as he asked threateningly, what? You told her? Lin Che smiled wider. Alright, relax, I didn't. Black Eagle punched her playfully. Hey, your sister-in-law is here, Black Eagle said. Lin Che turned her head and saw that Ji Yuxian had arrived. Ji Yuxian smiled as she walked to them. You are both here. Lin Che said, yes. Have you seen Apple? Yeah, I did. She's inside, and she's fine. I'll just stay here to watch. Ji Yuxian looked at Ji Yuxian, who was on stage. Your Nianian is capable now. He's becoming more and more like his dad. Lin Che shrugged speechlessly. It's all because of your family's genes. Just then, Lu Baiken walked in from behind. Lu Baiken's eyes met Black Eagle's. They looked at one another silently and felt somewhat awkward for a brief moment before they turned their heads away at the same time. Ji Yuxian and Lin Che looked at one another and shrugged speechlessly. Sometimes, men got shy more easily than women. Lin Che broke the awkward silence. Lu Baiken, you're actually here. How rare. Lu Baiken replied, why? My child is graduating, can't I come to watch? Really, I thought Jingyan behaved like a typical widowed mother. You usually never appear. What widowed mother? But Lu Baiken looked inside and thought that it indeed seemed to be that way. Apple was rather fond of her father. She would look for Lu Baiken when she was free. However, that could not be considered raising the child. It was just like having some playtime. Usually, it was Ji Yuxian who managed every aspect of raising the child. Lu Baiken didn't even know that it was already Apple's graduation ceremony. If his household hadn't reminded him, he might have missed it. Because in the past, if anything cropped up with Apple, Ji Yuxian would be the first to know, and hardly anyone would inform him. Lu Baiken took a deep breath and looked at Apple, who was wearing a tiny graduation robe. Her petite face looked very much like Ji Yuxian. It was beyond adorable. This was his daughter. However, the old him was too muddle-headed that he missed every process of his daughter's growth. The little kids dispersed. The parents saw that Lin Che was around, and they all came to greet her. Then, they saw Lu Baiken and Ji Yuxian. They also knew who these two were, so they quickly came over and took pictures with them. As these were parents of the students, both were considerably cooperative and obliged. No matter how annoyed Lu Baiken was, he wouldn't dare to flare up in front of Apple. He tolerated it even if everyone treated them like animals in the zoo. Just then, Apple skipped towards them. When she saw Lu Baiken, she called out, Daddy. Apple, come here. Lu Baiken held his arms wide open as Apple ran into them. Looking at Lu Baiken, she said sweetly, Daddy, why are you here? Lu Baiken pretended to be angry. Why, can't I come? Apple looked up and said hastily, no. It's because mommy said that daddy is too busy and can't see Apple, so Apple should be obedient. Apple doesn't want to disturb daddy's work. Lu Baiken's heart instantly softened. At the same time, he felt sour and uncomfortable. Apple was too obedient. He caressed Apple's tiny face. Daddy is not busy now. Apple will always be the top priority. Don't listen to mommy anymore. No matter what, you can always come to look for daddy. Really? Apple looked at Lu Baiken with widened eyes. Daddy isn't busy anymore. Yes, I'm not busy anymore. Daddy wants to take Apple to celebrate after Apple's graduation. Apple, tell me, where do you want to go? Daddy will take you. I want to go to Disneyland. Okay, Daddy will take you. Disneyland was in S City. There was no Disneyland in B City. Gu Jingze frowned. No, it's too far. Lu Baiken carried Apple with one arm, and he faced Gu Jingze. What's wrong? My daughter can go wherever she wants to. Furthermore, it's her graduation trip. There's no such thing as too far. I'll get my people to prepare a flight. We'll go tonight. What, you really want to take her? Gu Jingze wanted to stop him. He wasn't someone who knew how to look after a child. Lu Baiken said, so what about that? You can come along too. Are you not coming? If you're not coming, we'll go by ourselves. Lu Baiken turned around and headed for the exit with Apple in his arms. Apple quickly turned her head and called out happily, Mommy, come with us. What else could she do? Gritting her teeth, Gu Jingze had no choice but to follow them. This damned Lu Baiken, he was even starting to make use of the child now. Watching from the side, Lin Che shook her head speechlessly. Black Eagle asked, what's up with them? Why did it seem off? Lin Che replied, you don't know. Black Eagle did not want to bother about Lu family's affairs, so he naturally did not know. He always rejected hearing anything to do with the Lu family. Lin Che said, Jingyan recently went back to the Gu family. She said that she's already done the divorce process with Lu Baiken. Divorce? Black Eagle was in deep thoughts. He rubbed his chin with one hand, thinking about that day when Lu Baiken went to look for him and brought up family stuff. Black Eagle asked, so what now? Lin Che said, it looks like Lu Baiken isn't willing to divorce. Black Eagle took a deep breath. None of the Lu family's men are good people. Lin Che cocked her head to one side. No matter what, Black Eagle was also a Lu. Black Eagle seemed to react. Growing in such a rotten environment as their home and with a father like that, no wonder they can't be good. Lin Che said, I only heard that Uncle Lu doesn't seem to be in good health. Black Eagle frowned again. Looking into the distance, Black Eagle's face seemed to darken. But nobody knew what was going on in his head. Meanwhile, Lu Baiken really went to prepare a flight. At the airport, in the private waiting room, Gu Jingze watched Lu Baiken play with Apple. She suppressed her emotions but did not look happy. She leaned in her seat and crossed her arms, keeping her eyes fixed on the two of them. Apple did look extremely happy and was having a perfect time with Lu Baiken. Chapter 1498 A happy family of 3. All the way to S City. They stayed at a hotel near Disney. Apple was pleased because there were toys everywhere. As they entered the place, Lu Baiken said, I'd like to book a room. Gu Jingze said, 2 rooms. Lu Baiken looked at Gu Jingze. Such a waste of money. Isn't a sweet enough? Gu Jingze had no expression on her face. No, I want to have my room. The staff looked at both of them and knew that these two were the famous Lu Baiken and Gu Jingze. But weren't they husband and wife? Why did they want 2 rooms? Did they fight? The staff said, there's only one presidential suite. The other one is a twin room. Lu Baiken said, very good. We'll take the presidential suite. Gu Jingze said, I want the twin room. Lu Baiken looked at her. So you're letting Apple stay with me? No, I'm taking Apple. Let Lu Baiken take her. He didn't know crap. Lu Baiken said, haha, even if you hit me to death, I will not let my daughter stay in a twin room. Why, a twin room is pretty good. This hotel was expensive, and the twin room was spotless as well. No way, I will pamper my daughter as she grows up. I'm taking her to stay in the presidential suite. As for you, if you're not happy about it, you can stay in the twin room on your own. You. The staff quickly added on, Mrs. Lu, there are 3 rooms in the presidential suite. It's not a problem even if you stay in. Lu Baiken had already taken out his identification documents. Give me the presidential suite. Gu Jingze looked on. Though unwilling, still. The good thing was there were indeed 3 rooms in the presidential suite. At night, Gu Jingze did some work on the computer. Lu Baiken played with Apple. Speaking of which, their family of 3 rarely went out together. He always quarreled with Gu Jingyan and forgot about other things. There was no room to think about something, like bringing their child out for a holiday together. At this moment, their family of 3 was in a room. He looked at Gu Jingyan, who was working, while Apple was bugging him to play with her. After a night of being the nanny dad, he felt exhausted. It was not easy getting Apple to sleep. Then he realized that looking after a child was not easy. The hectic schedule pushed him on the verge of collapsing within the night. But Gu Jingyan had been going through this every night. Though there were plenty of maids and nannies at home, Gu Jingyan was a competent mother. As long as she had the energy, she would take care of the child every night. In the past, he thought that it was nothing to accompany a child to play. But today, he flopped onto the bed and felt it was more tiring than a day at work. Gu Jingyan, time to sleep. Gu Jingyan leaned on the sofa and looked at her computer. All right. Hurry up, stop working. We're here on holiday, who asked you to work? I'll be done in a bit. Lu Baiken looked, turned around, got up, and thought. He went out to give a call to the headquarters. A while later, Gu Jingyan called out, Lu Baiken, was it you who got them to go home and forbade them to work anymore? Lu Baiken put his phone into his pocket in a sophisticated manner. Even if you don't sleep, others want to. All right, come. Move aside. Gu Jingyan scoffed and pushed Lu Baiken away. She went to put Apple to bed. Early in the morning. Gu Jingyan was fast asleep. The door that was pushed open left a small gap. Lu Baiken went to the bedhead and looked at Gu Jingyan and Apple, hugging each other in sleep. His 2 lovers were both so beautiful. This scene was so beautiful. It made him feel like he did not want to ruin it. He gently kissed her forehead, put the blanket over her, and turned up the air conditioning. He then exited the room. While she was dreaming, Gu Jingyan felt itchy all over her body. In a daze, she felt someone put a blanket over her. But she was exhausted and hugged Apple into a deep sleep. She did not wake up for a while. The next day, Gu Jingyan and Lu Baiken brought their child to Disney together. This was a children's world. Be it the decorations or environment, the display of details was exceptionally beautiful. Since it was newly opened, it was more advanced than other countries. Just that there were more people in C Nation, hence there were many people around as well. The queues were all very long. Lu Baiken ensured the child while Gu Jingyan followed along. Since it seemed that the 3 of them were always at the back of the queues, Lu Baiken grumbled, where are there so many people? Let me get someone to talk. Gu Jingyan said, if you're not happy to queue, you can leave. Everyone brought their children here. Why must they give you a back door? Just queue up like everyone. Look at the kids in front who have waited for so long. Don't you feel ashamed if you were to get ahead of everyone with just a word? Lu Baiken narrowed his eyes and looked in front before surrendering to Gu Jingyan. Apple was very excited, however. Sitting on Lu Baiken's shoulders and looking ahead, she said happily, Daddy, look. It's going to be our turn soon. Though restless, upon hearing Apple's excitement, Lu Baiken also got his excitement up. Yes, Apple is such a good girl. Gu Jingyan felt very warm. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the sun. She was afraid of the heat, and she started to sweat at the tip of her nose. Lu Baiken looked down and saw her red face. He also looked up at the sun. Not long after, Gu Jingyan felt a moment of coolness. She looked up and realized that someone was blocking the light. It was Lu Baiken. He was standing in front of Gu Jingyan, using his body as a sunlight shield. Gu Jingyan looked at him. He was humming a song as though he was not doing it on purpose. But things were not so coincidental. Gu Jingyan unknowingly lowered her head a little and glared at him. Now, he was starting to be attentive. In the past, she had thought that in her lifetime, she would never see his attentiveness. Finally, it was their turn. Apple happily had her fun, and when she came out, they ran to another place to queue up. Lu Baiken carried Apple throughout. It was either carrying or letting Apple sit on his shoulders. Apple's hands took numerous things to eat. One moment she had ice cream, another moment she had candy. Behind her, she had attached a balloon to herself. The family of 3 went on non-stop. Apple had great energy. When she was not playing, she was running. Since Lu Baiken was big and tall, Apple could see what others could not when she sat on his shoulders. She could see far and wide ahead. She was even happier. On Lu Baiken's body, she repeatedly shouted, Daddy's awesome. Daddy, go in front a little more. When the other children saw that, they started to envy and told their fathers, Daddy, can we go in front? Can you carry me higher? I can't see. Look at her father. When the other father looked over, he said, all right. Her father is tall and strong. Daddy has no strength anymore. Just accept it. Apple heard them and felt even more proud. She hugged her father and said, Daddy, you're so tall. Lu Baiken's heart filled with happiness upon getting praised by his child. In an instant, he got more energetic. Gu Jingyan looked at this childish father and daughter duo. Seriously. Somehow, there was a sense of bliss that had been absent for long, that spread around. Chapter 1499 Marrying you is not thing I regret most. Just a whine from Apple and Lu Baiken would follow her wishes. He was a father without principles. Just then, Apple said, Daddy, I want to have an ice cream. Gu Jingyan replied from the back, No, Apple, you already had one just now. If you have another one, you'll get a tummy ache. Apple looked and pouted, I just want a bite. Not even one bite. No, Gu Jingyan insisted. When Apple knew she would not have her way with Mommy, she turned to Daddy. Daddy, can you buy one for me? Mummy's too petty. She won't buy me anything. Lu Baiken looked at Gu Jingyan and did not dare to provoke her. But Apple was too clingy. Daddy, aren't we a team? Are you on a team with Mommy now? Boo-hoo, nobody loves me. You guys are a team. Lu Baiken's heart softened. Okay, Daddy will buy it for you. Gu Jingyan fumed. How could this Lu Baiken not have any principles? And he even brought the child here to go against her. No, Gu Jingyan said quickly, no, Lu Baiken. She really can't eat anymore. Lu Baiken carried Apple in one arm. Alright, it's just one. What could happen? Of course not. If this happens once, it'll happen again. Are you prepared to follow everything she says? Lu Baiken also knew that, but he had already promised Apple. So what if I follow everything she says? She's my daughter. Even if she relies on me her whole life, I can afford it. You. When Lu Baiken finished his sentence, he happily walked off alone with the child to get some ice cream. Gu Jingyan stood there in rage. Fine, you guys buy it. You guys are a team. Don't come looking for me. Apple stuck her tongue out at Lu Baiken. Oh no, we're dead. Mommy is angry. Lu Baiken sighed. You even know that. It's all because of you. You must help Daddy to make Mommy happy again later. Okay. Apple went to buy the ice cream. Lu Baiken was thinking about ways to soothe Gu Jingyan. This woman was not easy to appease when she was angry. She was very stubborn. He looked back. Gu Jingyan had indeed not followed them. It seemed that she was genuinely angry. Just as he was sighing, unexpectedly when he turned around, Apple was gone. Lu Baiken was shocked. Apple. He looked everywhere but did not find Apple. He panicked. He immediately called for her and turned around to search. There were many people at Disney, and he could only see people's heads. He stood in the center and called out for her, but he did not see Apple's traces. He quickly stopped and made a call. Quick, get someone to Disney. Thinking about not being able to find Apple, he had the intention of beating himself to death. However, at that moment, there was no time to think about anything else. What mattered most was to find Apple. He stood alone at the big square. Looking at the people around him, he felt despair for the first time. Just then, Gu Jingyan arrived. She saw only Lu Baiken standing foolishly in the center, looking all around. But there was no sign of Apple. Gu Jingyan's heart sank. Where's Apple? Upon hearing Gu Jingyan's voice, Lu Baiken came to his senses a little. He looked at Gu Jingyan with dull eyes. Gu Jingyan grabbed Lu Baiken like a mad person. I'm asking you, where's Apple? As Gu Jingyan shook him, he could see the agony on her face. He was so afraid that he quickly hugged her. Don't worry. I got someone to search for her. Someone will come immediately to search. Apple isn't lost. She isn't. In a moment, the whole of Disney began searching. The event activated numerous police forces and people. They even made some announcements. Little friend, Apple, your parents are waiting for you at a particular place. But how could Gu Jingyan stay calm? Which mother would be calm upon losing her child? Lu Baiken hugged her. After being in a frozen state for a while, she suddenly thought of something and pushed Lu Baiken away. Let me go and look for Apple. Don't. Lu Baiken hugged Gu Jingyan with all his might. Jingyan, it's all my fault. Yes, all my fault. I'll go and look. You stay here, don't scare me. Gu Jingyan turned around and slapped Lu Baiken on the face. What kind of father are you? Why didn't you take good care of Apple? This time, Lu Baiken admitted to it. It was his fault. It was his bad. He lowered his head but still held onto Gu Jingyan's hands tightly. Jingyan, it's my bad. I didn't take good care of Apple. I promise that we will find Apple. If not, I'll die with her. Damn you, nothing will happen to Apple. Yes, I said the wrong thing. He looked up at Gu Jingyan. It's my fault, all these years, I've never been a proper and competent father. It wasn't even easy to take care of both of you, and now, I lost apply. You can hit me all you want but don't torture yourself. Gu Jingyan kept her head down. She could be a strong female CEO on the outside, deal with countless situations, deal with the thousands of staff at the company, and even deal with opponents fiercely. But as a mother, like all other mothers, she had no courage to face any problems with her child. What's the use of saying all these now? Lu Baiken, you can't turn back the clock. No matter how you try to make up for it, is there any use? Yes, there's no use. Lu Baiken looked at her. But I'm willing to use my whole life to make up, as long as you give me a chance. If not a day, not a year, then a lifetime. I don't believe that it would be impossible. Gu Jingyan, I do have many wrongdoings, but there's one thing I did right. And that is even if I didn't dare to admit my feelings for you, but I still won your hand in marriage. He held onto her hands firmly. This matter is one I won't regret forever. You're my wife and will always be Lu Baiken's wife. This label will never change in this life or the next life. Gu Jingyan's heart was a little moved. Just then. Daddy, Mommy. Apple's voice came from behind them. Beside her were two of Lu family's bodyguards. One on the right and the other on the left protecting her. The ice cream in her hand was gone. Gu Jingyan quickly ran over upon seeing Apple. She swept Apple up and looked at her. Where did you go, Apple? You frightened Mommy. Apple raised her small hand. I was afraid that Daddy wouldn't let me have my ice cream if he wanted to make Mommy happy. So, I quickly ate it all up. Lu Baiken walked over and, together with Gu Jingyan, hugged Apple. Silly girl, how could that be? You're number one in Daddy's eyes. Your mommy is number two. Apple looked at her parents. I know, she hugged Lu Baiken's neck with one hand, and with the other hand, she hugged Gu Jingyan. The two of them had no choice but to stay close to each other. Chapter 1500. He might not wake up again. Lu Baiken secretly smiled and felt this move was not bad after all. Gu Jingyan, on the other hand, was rolling her eyes. After the chaos, things finally returned to normal at Disneyland. Just as the family of three wanted to return, Lu Baiken suddenly received a call from home. Sir, old master is not in good shape. Come home quickly to take a look. Old master. Something wrong with Lu Chinyu. Lu Baiken naturally had to return home quickly. Gu Jingyan carried the slightly disappointed Apple and looked at Lu Baiken. What did they say? They only said Dad suddenly fainted. The specifics are not clear as of now. Lu Baiken hugged Gu Jingyan. I'm going home first. You take Apple to have fun first. How could Gu Jingyan be willing to do that? No, I want to go back with you. Lu Baiken looked at her. Gu Jingyan showed persistence on her face. Dad has been so nice to me. He fainted. How can I take my child out to have fun? Even if we've divorced, Dad is still my dad. Lu Baiken wondered how that old man got Gu Jingyan to care so much about him. Lu Baiken did not stop Gu Jingyan any further. Apple was very understanding. Hearing that Grandpa was unwell, she immediately said to go home. They got onto their private jet to return home. Before he got into the plane, Lu Baiken gave Lin Che a call. My dad suddenly fainted. I'm not using this to force you to do anything. I just want to say sometimes, a regret could probably never be made up for in a lifetime. I'm just letting you know in case there are any regrets in the future. As for Black Eagle, I won't mention it to him. If you can, it'll be good if you could let him know. With that call, Lin Che became silent for a long while. Lin Che sat on the bar top. Gu Jingze walked over and said, go if you want to. Lin Che took a deep breath. It's just that Uncle Lu treated me very well all along. I know. I'll go for sure, but as for Black Eagle, I'll let him know. It's up to him if he goes or not. But it is our business to inform him. Lin Che nodded and thought what he said was right. Lin Che then quickly went over to the Lu's home. She saw that they had pretty much locked up the Lu family's home. As they saw Lin Che arrive, the reporters outside started to gather around. Lu Chinyu had fainted in the middle of a public meeting. Some outsiders had witnessed it, and so the news had spread. It was something that could not be helped. Lu Chinyu was the Lu family's power holder no matter what. Though already semi-retired and that he had handed over all company matters to Lu Baiken and Gu Jingyan for them to manage, he was a significant figure after all. A small matter would always be a significant matter for a person of this figure. It was normal for the reporters to gather and observe. Seeing that Lin Che had arrived, the reporters started surrounding her. Lin Che was wearing a cap and tied her hair in a low ponytail. She got people to stop the reporters from coming over. This was a private matter, and it was the Lu family's matter. She did not wish to make any comments or to allow anyone to make wild guesses. After she had entered through the door, someone led her inside. Lin Che also asked about Lu Qinyu's situation as she walked. The attendant said, old master was still fine in the morning. He went out to have some tea at the tea house he frequented. He fainted there. The doctor recently talked about his heart and lungs, abilities as well. But looking at things now, I'm not sure if it's because of that. Sir just got home. Go in and take a look. Lin Che nodded and saw Lu Baiken just standing there. Lu Baiken, how's Uncle Lu? Lu Baiken looked at Lin Che. The doctor said. What did the doctor say? Lin Che looked at Lu Baiken's face, and for no reason, she felt her heart sink as well. Lu Baiken said, the doctor said it's unclear if my dad will be able to regain consciousness. As he spoke, he sank in his seat and sighed. Lin Che asked, why? Lu Baiken lifted his head and closed his eyes. His voice was also weak. The doctor said that my dad's heart and lungs are not good. At this time, he should have quickly gone for an operation. But now, his body is in a terrible state. If he goes for the operation, there's a possibility that he might never wake up on the operation table. Moreover, his body is in an unconscious state. It's very dangerous to do the operation as well. Lin Che quickly asked, then how wouldn't this mean there are no solutions? Lin Che could not help looking in. At first, she did not feel anything. At that moment, she felt her heart choke up. That was her biological father. But it also made her feel that he was so distant. That was because, all this while, she had never considered him as a father. This time, she suddenly thought that if he did not wake up, she would not have a father. Never again. Lin Che looked inside solemnly. What should we do? Lu Baiken said, it's not that there are no solutions. Lin Che's eyes lit up. Lu Baiken said, the doctor said that in Sweden, extremely cold ginseng has just been made known of. This ginseng was extracted from the cold lands and kept hidden by a collector for almost a century. So long. Yeah, recently, the collector's family has intentions to let everyone have a look at the century-old ginseng. If we use that, perhaps my dad can still be saved. They need massive amounts of nutrition to wake him up. This was the key to the operation. Now all they could think about is that the cold ginseng gave the highest chance of survival. However, it was not going to be easy to get that. Lu Baiken looked inside and said, no matter what is said, no matter how much is needed, I've decided to go and try. Lin Che pursed her lips and licked her dry lips. She could not describe what her heart was feeling. It was complicated, but there was a voice that seemed to coax her. No matter what, they must give it a try. She nodded her head with vigor at Lu Baiken. If you need, I'll help too. Lu Baiken turned his head and looked gratefully at Lin Che. He knew that this lass was very kind and compassionate. I'll go to Sweden immediately. If there's any news, I'll update you. Lin Che could not think of how she could help temporarily. She nodded her head and prepared to ask Gu Jingze if there were any solutions. Lu Baiken walked Lin Che out. The two of them reached the door but saw in the far distance, a black Hummer car parked at a spot that was neither near nor far. It was like the distance between the person and from where they were, neither near nor far. It was Black Eagle. Lu Baiken stopped where he was and looked at that side in silence. Lin Che also noticed Black Eagle's car. She was familiar with it. Lin Che smiled and said to Lu Baiken, he's not as cold as he looks. Lu Baiken kept silent. Lin Che said, I'll go over and have a look. As she said so, Lin Che already started walking over. The car door opened. Seeing Lin Che coming over, the chauffeur got down the car first.